Hi, I'm Emily, and welcome back to another week of News Bytes. This week's newsletter is called Facing Factions, and it's on Acts chapter 6, verse 1 through Acts chapter 7, verse 16. From Eliyahu, consider this. The United States is divided by many factions, and this is seen by many as a growing threat to the union of the country. In fact, maps showing the division of the country after a new civil war are becoming frighteningly common these days. For example, the map to the right shows how the country might be divided up by the hypothetical civil war according to various factions. Factions are always a problem for every country and group. It might surprise some people that the founders of America were worried about the problem of factions before the Constitution was ever ratified. The best surviving example of this is probably the Federalist Papers. These are a collection of 85 articles and essays written by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay under the pseudonym Publius, promoting the ratification of the United States Constitution. Historian Richard B. Morris says the Federalist Papers are an incomparable exposition of the Constitution, a classic in political science unsurpassed in both breadth and depth by the product of any later American writer. Early in the Federalist Papers, one could get the impression that factions were not a concern to the Founding Fathers. For example, in Federalist No. 2, John Jay counted as a blessing that America possessed one united people, a people descended from the same ancestors, the same language, professing the same religion. However, as we progress through these essays, we come to see that, despite the high degree of unity praised by John Jay, the problem of factions was very much on the minds of the framers. Federalist No. 10 is an essay written by James Madison as the 10th of the Federalist Papers, and is considered possibly the best of the Federalist Papers, and ranks among the most highly regarded of all American political writings. Here, Madison points out and deals with the problem of factions. Madison defines a faction as a number of citizens, whether amounting to a minority or majority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse of passion or of interest adverse to the rights of other citizens, or to the permanent and aggregate interests of the community. Madison saw the forming of factions as an undesirable but inevitable reality. He states, the latent causes of faction are thus sown in the nature of man. The Bible agrees with that, if we assume the fallen nature of man, since factions are listed among the works of the flesh in Galatians 5:20. I'm just going to go ahead and read Galatians 5:19-25. The acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And as we know, the most important of these is love. Since the problem of factions is unavoidable, how does a country or other body deal with it? Madison proposed that there are only two means to limit the damage caused by faction: either remove the causes of faction or control its effects. He breaks down the first means, removing the causes of faction, to only two possibilities. First, destroying liberty, saying, liberty is to faction what air is to fire. Indeed, totalitarian states use oppression to crush any faction that could oppose them. Religious groups sometimes do the same. However, Madison counts this as an unthinkable choice, since liberty is the whole point of the New Republic. The second possibility he suggests is creating a society homogeneous in opinions and interests. He arrives at the conclusion that this is unrealistic and counterproductive. Here Madison is left with control its effects. This can be done only by a republic with the proper safeguards built in Madison's view. Not all agreed that such a large and powerful republic as Madison argued for would be able to deal with the issue of faction. The Anti-Federalists felt such a large republic to be unworkable over time, so far as dealing with factions is concerned. The Anti-Federalist position is succinctly stated in the article, Cato No. 3. Whoever seriously considers the immense extent of territory comprehended within the limits of the United States, with the variety of its climates, productions, and commerce, the difference of extent and number of inhabitants in all, the dissimilitude of interest, morals, and policies in almost everyone, will receive it as an intuitive truth that a consolidated republican form of government therein can never form a perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to you and your posterity, for to these objects it must be directed. This is unkindred legislature, therefore, composed of interest, opposite and dissimilar in their nature, will in its exercise emphatically be like a house divided against itself. Indeed, despite the good and well thought out intentions of James Madison and the other founding fathers, it looks more every day like the Anti-Federalists were right, that even the great Republic of America cannot control the progressive decay of factions. The very considerable efforts to mitigate the destructive effects of factions by unique provisions of the Constitution, though brilliant, today go largely unknown and mostly unappreciated, and certainly ignored. James Madison and the other founding fathers would, no doubt, be discouraged and appalled to see the fractious nature of America today, to the great deterrent of all involved. They knew popular democracy always leads to factions, chaos, and eventual disaster whenever it's tried. The reason? It is mob rule, in which the good of the country as a whole is lost, as a myriad of special interests all compete for a bigger share of everybody else's money and liberties. The framers settled on a new kind of republic as the way to go, designed to put America first, while taking the interest of states and individuals into account through representative government, and failing that, the courts. Now, that has all collapsed into mob rule anyway, as the very foundations of the country are being shaken to rubble by the stirring up of factions. Moral of the story: it is not possible for human government of any kind to curb the fractious nature of man. Human government will always fail. If there's one thing you can count on with human government, you can count on the fact that it will always fail. You're welcome. Yeah, some truth for you. The story of the decline of America that we are now witnessing is the story of every great empire throughout history, divided and destroyed from within. Not only that, but the church has had nothing but the same, with constant divisions, even now, arising daily. Historic Israel has been plagued with the same, painfully chronicled in the pages of sacred writing. The world is incorrigible, and totally unable to curb the fractious nature of man. Some think a world government is the answer. As the Anti-Federalist rightly pointed out, bigger government is not better, so far as the issue of factions is concerned, at least if the goal is to maintain liberty. The only way such a massive government as global government could maintain order in a world divided by so many different interests would be to establish the greatest tyranny the world has ever seen. This, of course, is what the Bible foretells will happen next. There is one answer to all of this, and one answer alone: the kingdom of Yeshua Messiah. This brings me to this week's Zion Academy study in Acts chapters 6 and 7. Here we continue to observe the amazing growth of the early Messianic assembly. For the first time, we encounter a break from perfect unity among them, with a danger of faction raising its ugly head. How will we attain unity in remnant Israel? Look to this study for a lesson from the emissaries that will definitely put us on the right track. Holy order is the answer to unholy chaos. I would also like to add that love is the answer as well. To have unity amongst the whole body of Messiah, we need love. And especially now, more than ever. So, if you like this newsletter, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will have a link to the newsletter below, as well as a link to the website so you can sign up and watch this meeting, Facing Factions. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week.